Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I am your host Geekman, and today we're going to learn how to create a red Mars text effect in Photoshop. Now, a couple of assumptions that I need to get out of the way right off the bat. Number one, I am using Photoshop CC 2017. So if you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, some of the effects may not work as expected. Second, I am using Windows. So when I say hit the Control key on the keyboard, if you're using a Mac, that means hit the Command key. And if I say hit the Alt key on the keyboard, if you're using a Mac, that means hit the Option key. So now that that's out of the way, let's hit Control N on the keyboard to bring up the new image dialog box. And let's get let's get started, I should say, by renaming this as Red Mars Text, because that's what we're making. Now, the width that I'm using is, as always, 3,840 pixels, height of 2160 pixels, resolution 150 pixels per inch, RGB color 8-bit. Background contents don't matter. We're going to cover it with an image anyway. The color profile is Adobe RGB 1998 and square pixels. Hit create, and we now have our image ready to go. First thing we want to do is we want to bring in the image that we're going to use to as a base or a background for our text. Now, I have a link in the description below on where you can learn how to create this space background that I'm using. So click on that, follow those instructions to create a space background, or feel free to use any background you may have on hand or may have created for this text. Now, moving on past the background, we're going to get right into the text. The first thing that you need to do is you need to change your foreground color to a red text color. That's going to be the base for the entire effect. The color that I am using is going to be D33F00. Okay, that's this nice red color. Hit OK, and we're now ready to begin by hitting T on the keyboard to bring up our text tool. Now, the font I'm using is a nice thick font called SF Distant Galaxy. I'm using it regular at 215 points, sharp, centered, and it's picked up the red from our foreground color over here. Now, I've got a link in the description below to download SF Distant Galaxy if you want to use that with this effect, or you can use any thick to very thick font for this effect. Thinner fonts don't really work very well because you want to be able to see the reddish Mars kind of looking interior of the text, so thicker fonts work better. So now that we've gotten past choosing a font, let's click on our image and write down our text. In my case, it will be Pixel Magic, as almost always. And then what we want to do is clean up the kerning. You want the text to be slightly further apart than I normally like. So where you can see this P right here to the I, where I have the cursor right now, that's slightly too close. So we want to make sure that all of our text letters, the kerning between them is slightly further than that. Now, the way that we're going to do that here is you're going to situate your cursor in between the letters you need to change. Then you're going to hit Alt on the keyboard, and then using your left and right arrow keys, you can move the text further and closer together. So what we want to do is make this further apart. So we're going to hold down Alt and use the right arrow key to make it further apart. Same thing here with the I, and then with the E here, and then with the L. So now all of our text there is further apart. So we want the M, the A. This was actually fine. We'll do this and this. This looks like it could be a little bit closer. That looks okay, I think. Yes, that looks good. So now we're going to click on the little check mark here, and we now have our text ready to go. So let's hit our V on the keyboard to bring up the Move tool, and then we can move our text to the center of our image, if it will agree with me and move. You know what? We can do it a different way. Let us click on all three of our layers, okay, and then let us line them all up to the center, like so. So you use your Move tool special little moves here of align center and align vertical center. So horizontal center and vertical center, and everything will be aligned to the center of your document. Once you've done that, just click back onto the text layer, and we are now ready to begin with a layer style to make this look like the red Mars text. Now, I do everything in one layer, so it is still going to be fully editable text. You can also save this as a layer style for yourself to be used anywhere else on any other text or images you may want to use it on. So let's begin by going down to our little layer style or layer effects. And let's go straight to bevel and emboss. Now the bevel and emboss that we need to do is a stroke emboss, smooth. Depth is 100% up. We want to have our size at 10. Our soften is going to be 0. Shading, make sure that you have Use Global Light unchecked before you start changing things. So uncheck that. 135 degrees by 40 degrees. The gloss contour is ring. Now you can find ring. It looks like this one single hump with another little one coming up at the side there. And the highlight mode that we want, make sure that your anti-alias is checked. Highlight mode is going to be vivid light. It's going to be white, which is all Fs. And the opacity is going to be 50%. Shadow mode is going to be multiply. Black, that's all zeros, opacity of 75%. Then you want to click here on contour. And what we want to use is this weird looking contour right here. Now this is a standard contour that you can get by clicking on the little arrow here and then clicking on the little sprocket, going down to contours, and then hitting replace current contours with the contours from contours, which sounds weird, but it makes sense. Hit OK, and then you will see all these new contours up here. And the one that we're looking for is way down here on the bottom, and it is called Steep Slope Jagged. Okay, this is steep slope rolling. You don't want the rolling one, you want jagged. So once you have that, you want to make the range 50% and anti-alias unchecked. Next, you want to have 2 strokes. So when you're done with 1 stroke, hit the plus button and make sure that the top stroke is as follows. Size of 5, position inside, blend mode is vivid light, opacity is 70%, overprint is checked. Fill type is gradient, and the gradient that you want is going to be, let's see here, let's reset this back to normal, and you want the black and white gradient right here, okay? It's just called black-white. All right, then what you want to do is make sure reverse is unchecked, align with layer is checked, style is reflected, angle is 90, and scale is 100%. Then you want to go down to the second stroke here, and you want the size to be 9, position to be center, blend mode to be normal, opacity is 100%, overprint is checked, gradient type, and the gradient that you want is found under metal. So you want to go here under the sprocket. And like I just did, you just want to pick the one you want. In our case, we want metals. And you want to replace it, and you hit OK. And then you want this one right here, which is gold. Okay, that's the gradient that we want here. Then you want the style to be reflected. Reverse is unchecked. Align with layer is checked. Angle is 89. That's 1 degree off of 90. Scale is going to be 110%. Then what we're going to want to do is put in 2 inner shadows, okay? The topmost inner shadow, again, you just press the plus icon to get 2 of them, so that you're going to have the top one here is going to be a blend mode of color dodge, and it's going to be pure white, so that's all Fs. You're going to make the opacity 100%. The angle is -45, so that's down here, -45. Use global light. Make sure, again, always uncheck that. I think I found it useful once in my career to have Use Global Light checked. Just uncheck that. Distance is going to be 5 pixels. Choke is 0. Size is going to be 10. Contour is going to be linear, which is the very first guy. That's what you want. Anti-alias is checked. And noise, we want a little bit of noise here, so 7% noise. Then you're going to work on the second inner shadow here, and that is going to be a blend mode of multiply. Black is going to be the color, so that's all zeros. Opacity is 65%. Angle is going to be 135 degrees. Again, remember to uncheck Use Global Light. Distance is going to be 12. Choke is going to be 5. Size is going to be 5. Contour is linear again. Anti-alias is checked, and noise is going to be 0. Next, what we want to do is we want to put on satin. So you want to go to satin, and what you want is blend mode of vivid light. You want it to be all black. That's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Opacity 65%. Angle -130 degrees, which is towards the bottom left. Distance is going to be 200. Size is going to be 135. You also want here the jagged slope, steep slope jagged, and you want it anti-aliased, and you want it inverted. Okay, so that will give you this kind of a look. Now that you've got that, what you want to do is you want to go to gradient overlay, and you want 2 of those. So make sure to press on the little plus icon here. And then on the top one, you want it to be a blend mode of linear burn. Dither unchecked. Opacity is 100%. Gradient is going to be gold again, so make sure you choose gold. Reverse is unchecked. Align with layer is checked. Style is going to be reflected. Angle is going to be 87 degrees, near 90, not quite 90. Scale is going to be 150%. The second gradient overlay is going to be a blend mode of linear dodge add. Then the dither is going to be unchecked. Opacity is going to be 100%. Gradient that we're going to use is going to be silver, which is this guy right here, silver. Reverse is unchecked. Align with layer is checked. Linear is the style. Angle is going to be 90 degrees, straight up and down. Scale is going to be 150%. Next up is going to be a pattern overlay, and this is going to streak the look so that it's not so uniform here. So we're going to hit pattern overlay. And what we're going to do is blend mode of overlay, opacity of 100%. And the pattern that we're using is this guy right here, which is called streaks. Now you can find streaks by clicking on the little sprocket icon here and going down to I believe it is Patterns 2. Yes, Patterns 2 is what you want to install. So you click on that, you hit OK, and you will be able to find the streaks. Okay, so click on that, and the scale that we want is 400%. Link with layer is checked. Next, we're going to want an outer glow to give it slight little shine on the outside. So we're going to make the blend mode normal. Opacity is going to be 35%. Noise is 0. The color that we are using is FFE400. That's a nice bright yellow. Technique is going to be softer. Spread is going to be 0. Size is going to be 18. Contour is going to be linear. Anti-alias is checked. Range is 50. Jitter is going to be 3. That gives it a slight bit of noise in there. We're using jitter instead of noise because jitter gives it a slightly more sparkly look to it, at least with this effect. The last thing that we're going to want is a little drop shadow to help separate it from the background. So we'll give it a little drop shadow. Blend mode is going to be normal. Black is the drop shadow color. Opacity is going to be 100%. Angle is 120 degrees. Remember, uncheck, use global light. Distance is going to be 28. Spread is 5. Size is 16. Contour is linear. Anti-alias is unchecked. Noise is 0. Layer knocks out drop shadow is checked. And that right there is the end of our effects for this Red Mars text. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave a comment, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. I do new tutorials every Tuesday. And once again, this is Geekman signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.